multi-billion-dollar investment projects to grow the economy, more reliable and cheaper electricity, legislation to govern critical sectors, and revamping the Values and Attitudes program. Those and more will form the basis of the 2013-2014 financial year as Jamaica, under the leadership of Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller and her cabinet, goes for growth and development. Fresh on the heels of completing all the prior actions required by the International Monetary Fund (IMF),
the government will be giving priority focus to close management of the macroeconomy to enable the country to meet the agreed economic targets.
One such target is a primary surplus of 7.5% of what the country produces. That is its gross domestic product (GDP). The primary surplus is money the government has left after paying its debt. The goal is to push the debt to GDP ratio down to about 95% by the year 2020. A more efficient and effective public sector is central to achieving the required targets. Money-making state agencies like the Customs Department have already been given executive agency status to ease the monetary pressures of government. Attention will now be placed on making it easier for persons and companies to do business.
We will place focus on laws, procurement procedures, enhanced use of ICT, better risk management, and more user-friendly government services.
Public sector assets which will be better served by private management are also to be divested.
The government will seek to balance the well-understood need for getting the best price possible for certain assets and the urgency to put these assets into productive use to create jobs, goods, and services.
As part of the government's growth agenda, the Transport and Works Ministry will be embarking on a major infrastructural project worth $353 million.
Of this amount, US $300 million was secured from the China Exim Bank on a concessionary basis, and the rest will be provided by the government of Jamaica.
Some of the funds will be utilized for the G project, small community projects, because these have a positive impact both in terms of improving infrastructure at the community level, as well as employment.
National projects, as well as those outlined by the local authorities, will also be pursued. The Kingston Container Terminal, the upcoming logistics hub, and the North-South Highway are among the mix. Work on the Caymanas to Linstead and the Monique to Ocherias legs of the highway is expected to begin this fiscal year once the regulatory approvals have been granted. In agriculture, 4 agro-parks will begin production this year.
Special emphasis will be placed on non-traditional crops and the increased use of local produce through domestic consumption, the hotel sector, and the school feeding program.
For tourism, government is continuing to explore additional markets to boost increased visitor arrivals. More reliable and cheaper electricity is also a major focus of the government's growth agenda.
Construction of the long-promised 360 megawatts of electricity capacity to replace the existing old and inefficient 292 megawatt Solar Harbour plant will commence during this calendar year.
Emphasis will also be placed on generating electricity from renewable energy sources like wind and water. Bids to generate 115 megawatts of electricity from renewable energy will be opened in short order. To address the demand for electricity, all sectors will be urged to develop conservation techniques.
What we should do is to ensure we continue throughout the ministries and agencies to ensure that we're also setting the example of cutting cost by way of our use of electricity.
On the legislative side of things,
the government will pursue an active legislative agenda, and towards this end is moving to strengthen the office of the Parliamentary Council in keeping with a review undertaken by the Cabinet Office.
A raft of measures was announced to support the economic growth program, enhance public sector management, and continue the fight against crime. Legislation addressing certain trivial evidentiary matters, court management, and the power of the court to hand down sentences for certain offences will also be tackled.
In education, there will be an expansion of the Jamaica Education Television and DC Digital Services to over 600 schools.
The program will initially focus on literacy and numeracy. For healthcare, government will roll out its health card to assist needy persons while improving the services offered in health centers and clinics. And to improve the delivery of potable water to all communities, the Bogue, Marthabury and Great River water treatment plants will be rehabilitated while the Norwood and Linstead water supply systems will be upgraded. Over 20,000 water meters will be installed and old asbestos pipelines replaced. Meanwhile, government is revamping the Values and Attitudes program.
I believe that if we push the values and attitude, people will realize and recognize it's better for us to treat one another with love and for us to live in peace and unity rather than fighting.
The civics program is a good program to start that at the school level, and I think that what we have to do as a nation, we have to frown upon persons who break the law.
The Ministry of Youth and Culture, through its various agencies and departments, will also be playing its role from a policy position.
We're also revising the children's policy, which is this year. We're advancing the youth policy, which should be tabled this year.
Island-wide consultations will be held to promote the Values and Attitudes program through partnership with the private sector, the media, and civil society. The government, with Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller at the helm, implementing strategies for Jamaica to grow and develop.